morning, everyone, and welcome to Think Future. I'm Chris Kalaboukis, and once again, we're coming at you live from deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California. We're talking innovation, startups, the future, not necessarily those, and not necessarily in that order. If you're watching on YouTube, smack that subscribe button and hit that bell when you can be notified when a new show comes online. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast service, please subscribe. Please drop a note on Apple Podcast. I'd greatly appreciate it. Love to know how you feel about the show. What are we talking about today? Oh, yeah. So I remember when I was a kid, I used to watch cartoons all the time. Saturday morning, cartoons. That's the only time they were on. We didn't have a Cartoon Network. It was just cartoons on Saturday morning, right before wrestling, because my dad was a big wrestling fan. So he would shoo us out of the TV room at noon when wrestling came on. But I remember cartoons, and I remember one of these cartoons. It was from all the cartoons that I watched, there's a few that I actually remember. But I remember one where they were talking about animals in a jungle. So there was a bunch of animals in the jungle, and there was all these animals in the jungle, and they were always fighting with each other. So there was zebras being killed by lions and chimpanzees, and there was all this stuff going on in the jungle. There was all these wars going on. There's hierarchies in the jungle. And there was all of this stuff going on. And then all of a sudden, a fire lit. And then, once this fire started burning, there was this image of all the animals running in the same direction. They were all running in the same direction. Did they stop to attack each other while they were running in the same direction? No, they didn't stop to attack each other all running in the same direction. They all ran in the same direction because they were all running away from the fire. And I thought to myself, that's really interesting thought. And then I thought to myself, what doesn't that apply to human beings as well? Don't we all do something very similar? I mean, we have all these battles between us. We fight each other all the time. In the absence of a unifying force, which is either good or bad, we constantly fight each other. And we think about your typical corporate or even startups. In startups, it's a little bit smaller. You have the startup founders butting heads against each other. In corporates, you have departments butting against each other. The one department A wants to do one thing, department B wants to do something else. And they're always fighting each other. They're always fighting for supremacy. I remember working for an organization that was just like that. Everybody was happy working together, and they brought in a new CEO who wanted competition within the organization. So all of a sudden, everything got siloed, and everybody was fighting everybody else for resources, for customers, for everything. Everybody was fighting everybody else. It were like little fiefdoms within this organization. You couldn't get anything done except within the silo. And if you wanted to do anything cross-silo, say if you had an idea for a new product that would cross the silos, that's impossible. Nobody would touch you with a 10-foot pole because it's not my silo, it's not your silo. Didn't happen. No innovation there. Oh, they came up with a lot of innovative ideas, but nothing ever turned into product. But I digress. So that concept sort of stuck with me all this time, is that you've got all these animals fighting with each other in the jungle, but if there's a unifying force, whether it's positive or negative, everyone runs in the same direction, either away from the negative force or towards the positive force. And then I thought to myself, this exact same thing happens within organizations and what happens within startups. You have competing interests, and in startups, it's usually people individually competing against their own interests. This is what I want to do for the organization. This is what I want to do for the startup. And within corporates, you have the big organizations, as I mentioned. But a lot of times when you're a product manager and you come into these organizations, you need to get something done. And a lot of times getting this thing done is a problem because you still have to work in an environment where all these bits of the organization are fighting against each other. They're fighting against each other, and they have all these internecine battles with each other. And it's almost impossible to get these parts of the organization to work together to get your product out the door. Because they have their own things that they are fighting for, and it's impossible almost impossible to get them to align. So when you see that, think back to the jungle. Think back to that cartoon I was telling you about. Fire aligns. Light a fire and you align. How do you light a fire in the new organization? Well, you do it toward as opposed to away. You raise yourself up above these elements within the organization and say, look, this goal, this product, this thing that we're trying to build, this project, this thing that's coming out at the end of all of this work that we're going to be doing is helpful to everyone within the organization. The company itself, this will help the company itself. Let's all run in the same direction against or away towards this launch. I mean, I've done this countless times in many organizations where you come in and there's all these internecine battles. You're trying to come in, you're trying to execute something, you're trying to roll a product out, and it's almost impossible because there's so much bickering amongst all the groups. There's bickering amongst the individuals. It happens in startups, it happens in corporates. The bickering just overtakes, and then you can't get the product out the door. So you need to light the fire. You need to create the environment where everyone is running in the same direction. And the only way to get them running in the same direction is to put a goal out there that they're all interested in getting to, outside of what they're doing right now. That's how you align these parts of the organization. You need to give them something that's above and outside of what they're doing. And then when everyone aligns, when everyone steps out of line, then the others will bring them back into line. It's like, you don't want this product to be successful? They're not fighting against you. Because sometimes they look at you and say, oh, you're making an incursion into this organization. You're an enemy force, and we have to kick you out. Don't make yourself or your group the focus of any of that. Make the goal the focus. We're all going towards the goal. Just like all the animals running away from the fire, get them all running towards the goal. Now, sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't work. Every time I've tried it, it's worked. But you have to be able to get everyone to align, because some of these groups will not agree with the goal and they will never come into line. But if the end goal has got the support of senior management and you raise up, you have to raise it up out of the trenches and have everyone look at it as something that runs above their petty squabbles, then you can get alignment and get the product executed and out the door. Remember, light a fire, everyone runs in the same direction. That's it for me for today. See you next time, and until then, don't forget to think future.